The internet is on a steady decline. I've seen it, you've seen it, we all have seen it. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. When it first hit the mainstream, the internet was portrayed as a magical place full of infinite possibilities. There was so much junk to see all across the web, websites about literally anything hosted by anyone. You wanted a website dedicated to some random, specific thing, it was there.
Oh yes. Yes, the George W. Bush cursor. God bless America!
But nowadays, that really isn't the case. The internet seems to have been compartmentalized into like the same 10 websites. We don't hang out on uber-specific forums anymore, we just talk on Discord or a dedicated subreddit or something. We've made the internet boring, is the point I'm trying to get at. Everything is perfectly organized and bland to look at, and it makes me sick. So I say I'm done with the internet proper. The real thing doesn't cut it anymore. I need a perfectly tuned, idealized version of it to sink myself into. In layman's terms, I'm gonna talk about when video games try to replicate the internet. If that short intro paragraph didn't make any sense, then let me just jump right into probably the first example most of us think of when it comes to video games with built-in internet features. Grand Theft Auto 4. Alright, so in GTA 4 there's a mission called Logging On, which tasks the player character Nico with creating an email so you can receive emails from other characters in the game, as well as plenty of spam. To do this, you gotta head to an internet cafe going by the name TW@. Oh, after that mission, you can go here whenever you want in your free time. These places are dotted all around the map, and they can be accessed at pretty much any time, just with a $1 fee for actually using the computers. I always choose one in the back so I can look at wholesome websites like E621 in privacy. Once you log in, you'll be greeted by ifind.info, which acts as a central hub linking you to the vast, seemingly endless internet of the Grand Theft Auto world. All while the cafe speakers play freeform jazz. It's very nice. From here you can find pretty much anything you'd expect to find on the internet. Like there's ads for TV shows, some I believe you can actually watch on the TV in your apartment. You can visit promotional websites for in-game brands and read the news, which usually chronicles crimes you yourself committed in story missions. Another thing prominently featured on the iFind website is LoveMeet, which is a dating service. This is actually like the one and only website you're forced to go to by the story, particularly for a mission where you're given the task of killing a specific guy, so you make a profile here and lure him into a date. But aside from yourself, LoveMeet features a wide cast of people looking to get laid, each with a detailed and expectedly ridiculous bio. And all of which you can request to date. Wild, I know. Unfortunately, I don't think you can actually go on dates with any of them, because every time I've tried, they always send me an email telling me to go fuck myself. I don't really know what their problem is. I'm basically the spitting image of sex appeal, but, you know, whatever.
Remember, during the war, we did some bad things, and bad things happened to us.
And speaking of your email inbox, these are pretty interesting too. Most of the ones you'll receive are from other characters in the game giving you objectives or commenting on things that have happened. But you can also receive spam, just like in real life. Except these are a lot less normal than the spam I receive in real life.
Hot girl. Dog penis by mail. Free order now. Woof. The dog.
If you dig a little deeper than the iFind homepage, you'll find where the real gold lies. This here is Craplist, what I believe is a parody of Craigslist, but I'm not going to say that like I know for sure, because if I get it wrong, people will correct me in the comments. Every listing on this website feels like it was written by a psych ward patient, so you know, honestly not too far off from what we actually have on the internet.
Political group seeks cause and scapegoat.
Support group for straight adult men who love boy bands.
I kicked your dog, you spat my face.
These are all very entertaining listings, but easily my favorite section of the website is the Lost and Found, with such classics as
Lost, Will to Live, Lost cell phone with compromising photos.
Found. Fat baby.
I'm also a fan of the MySpace parody they threw in here, which is also full of similar content. There's even a page for the character Eddie Lowe, who's a random encounter character you can meet out in the overworld. He's also a serial killer, but that seems like the less important piece of info.
Whatever.
Quite naughty. Do you like to get spanked? Like that?
Excuse me?
Oh, and speaking of crime, you can even perform an homage to that guy with the island whose name I can't say because I'm monetized now. If you find a URL to this questionable sounding website, and then you click on it, well, for one, why? Why did you do that? What is wrong with you? I don't want to know which character you chose to romance in Persona 3 Portable. But anyways, if you do that, you receive instant karma and are given a 5-star wanted rating, which, for comparison, is the same amount you get during the bank heist mission later in the game. Meaning, you know, that's a lot of fucking cops. I'm glad the Liberty City Police Force have their priorities in check. If only they did in Los Santos too. Whether intentional or not, exploring the internet in GTA 4 feels like a satire-laden time capsule of the actual internet in the late 2000s. Like, instead of looking back on the past with rose-tinted glasses, you're looking at it through glasses you dipped in a mud puddle. And really, I could go on for hours about all the stuff there is to see on this, but I'll leave it there for now, because I also have to bring up this mechanic's successor. The internet browser function made a return in Grand Theft Auto 5, now contained within your mobile phone instead of being at a physical location. It's a bit lame, but I understand why. I mean, GTA 5 came out at a time where internet cafes really didn't exist anymore. Everything that made it fun in the previous game is still here though, just now with a more modern coat of paint, at least modern for the time. A particular highlight, to me anyways, is the amount of cult activity on here. There's some wild websites spouting some wild shit, but perhaps the most interesting is this one promoting the Epsilon Project, which is a parody of Scientology in real life. Except this is more than just a silly virtual website to gawk at, because if you shill out some money to them, specifically while playing as Michael, they'll get in contact with you and you can partake in a long series of quests in order to join their cause. This of course means giving them tons of additional cash, stealing expensive cars, and being left ass naked alone in the desert. I'm really glad they made an effort to add a little more interactivity to the internet in GTA 5, even if it was minimal, because it makes it feel even more real, like it's an actual facet of this world that I can interact with and not just one that lightly interacts with me. I'd really like it if they expand on this a little further in GTA 6, and you know, based on the trailer having an emphasis on social media, I think it's fair to expect the internet will at least still play a role in the game. I won't know for a while though, because I'm pretty sure I'll be married with 4 kids by the time the game releases. God, I'm so sick of waiting. Doing a 180 here, I'm gonna move from talking about maybe the most American game I own to one of the least American games I own. Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner Soul Hackers, a title so cool it needed 2 colons, which I presume is the main reason people didn't like the sequel. They dropped both franchises from the title, like come on. We all know about how Persona started its life as a spin-off of the wider Megami Tensei series, but what a lot of people don't seem to know is that Persona 1 wasn't the only AU spin-off series Atlus tried to launch in the 90s. It was also joined by a little game called Devil Summoner, a game I don't really know much about because they never bothered to release it here in the States, or in English anywhere for that matter. It's about a guy who's like a detective, I think, and he does stuff involving demons, and the game has a live-action TV show with Avatar-level CGI effects.
Hee-haw!
Oh, and it ties into Persona 2 a little bit, so technically this is Persona canon, which means any character from this game could have interacted with Toru Adachi at some point in their lives.
It should have been me, not him! It's not fair!
Devil Summoner may not have made it to any English-speaking territories, but its sequel, Devil Summoner Soul Hackers, did get a proper English release. 15 years after it did in Japan. Which you know, it's progress. The reason I bring it up today is because it has one of my favorite depictions of an internet setting in a video game. At least it's a form of the internet. Alright, so just to preface, I've only played the first couple hours of this game. I am in no way an expert, so forgive me if I get anything wrong, especially since I'm pretty sure there's like some underlying evil plot behind this thing I'm gonna talk about. I just don't know what it is yet. I've held off watching the Marsh video on this one because I want to experience it myself. I just have commitment issues with JRPGs. I promise I'll get back to you someday, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Back on topic, the thing I'm referring to is Paradigm X, which is a sort of virtual world. It's kind of like Second Life or Active Worlds or any of those other virtual chat room type places. Except I think this one is in VR or something? I genuinely can't tell. They keep bringing up virtual reality in this place, but I've yet to see any explanation or indication it involves true virtual reality like how we think about it today. For all I know, they might just be saying that because it is a virtual reality. You know? You don't know. You don't get it. You don't get it like I do. The main hub area of Paradigm X is set up like a little town, presumably one near London based on the eternally grey skies above. Inside all the buildings are varying activities, such as a bank where you can store all your cryptocurrency. There's also a digital pet shop that sells these things that are just begging to be marketable plushies. And who could forget the bathhouse forum? Yeah, so Paradigm X has what appears to be a few physical chat rooms here where you can speak with NPCs. It's so charming listening to these guys talk about the internet like it's this new exciting thing and not a cesspit of brain rot and degeneracy like it is today. Like, just think about it, these guys have no idea what relation Rainbow Dash and glass jars have to each other. What a time to be alive. If you get bored of hanging out in chat rooms and shop areas, you can always check out the casino, because gambling is incredibly based. Well, it would be if I'd unlocked it yet. So instead I'll go next door to the theater, which is where the real exciting shit happens, because it's basically a gateway to all the other free roam areas in Paradigm X. I'm a fan of the Love Club, which is a funhouse looking place where you answer personal questions, and then at the end you're paired up with a virtual person that represents the archetype of your ideal lover, I guess. And by the way, I meant it when I said personal. The first question is literally, do you believe in God? I answered pretty pessimistically to every question, so I wonder what kind of person I'm going to get matched up with.
Okay.
I choose not to question this. Keeping in line with the dreamlike atmosphere of the main area of Paradigm X, the theater also grants you access to some similarly surreal free roam areas like a virtual park and an art museum that is actually kinda terrifying. I don't know what it is, maybe it's the music, maybe it's the darkness outside my field of view, or maybe it's the fact that I appear to be completely alone, but this place creeps me out. And why is it shaped like Majora's Mask? I'm telling you dude, this art museum is evil. There's also what appears to be like a healing room on the second floor of the art museum, which implies you have to fight something up here at some point in the game, so yeah. There's apparently also some kind of haunted house, so I imagine that one's in a similar boat. I can't really confirm this because, well, I haven't unlocked it yet. There's a few things in Paradigm X that I just straight up can't do because they're not ready yet. And I'm not sure if that means they'll never be ready, or maybe they will be and I can use them later in the game, but I don't really have time to just play the game and figure it out because I'm a busy man. I have to be on the grind 24/7. Fortnite quests don't pay out XP like they used to. I'm working overtime here. Before I move on from the Megami Tensei franchise, I also want to briefly touch on Shin Megami Tensei 9, which is, get this, another game you can't play in English. I kinda wish you could though, cause its setting fascinates me. I think it's so cool. So for those unaware, the main Shin Megami Tensei series, at least the first couple entries, are set in like an apocalypse. There were nukes dropped and like the demons just chill in the human world now. Shit's fucked, basically. Shin Megami Tensei 9 is set during this post-apocalypse, with most of the population now living in bunkers to get away from the surface. To pass the time and keep a sense of community, humanity now spends their days interacting through VR in an online world called the Idea Space. which is a virtual recreation of what Tokyo used to look like before it got nuked to shit. So basically, imagine Fallout, but instead of being used for experiments, Vault Dwellers were encouraged to interact with one another through VR chat. You know, at that point, I'd just rather take the radiated hellscape up above. The idea space is such a cool setting to me. It's so colorful and vibrant, which is in such stark contrast to the actual world outside of the simulation. It's also pretty open. There's a lot of breathing room in here. As it turns out, this is because Atlas originally intended for this game to be an online experience, but that was taking a while, so they dropped the single-player version of the game with promise of an online version later. That never happened, so now we're just stuck with this MMO overworld retooled to be used for a single-player RPG. And I love it, it's so weird. There's several areas in SMT9 that are just completely empty or devoid of any type of player interaction at all, even though they very clearly were meant to be used for something. It makes me wonder how bizarre it would be to play an actual MMO by yourself, walking around hub areas with only NPCs there to emulate human interaction. Like, imagine if World of Warcraft had to be retooled into a single-player RPG with the same overworld. You know, I kinda like that idea, actually. Can you do that, Blizzard? Give me a single-player offline WoW, and in exchange I will bitch slightly less about how expensive Overwatch items are. The final stop on today's journey takes us to one of my personal favorite indie games, probably ever. It's a little title called Hypnospace Outlaw, and it's magnificent. In this game, you play the role of a Discord moderator, and not the cool kind who's offline most of the time and lets you post memes in general chat, but rather the stuck-up kind who gets all up your ass about, "Keep conversation topics to the appropriate channels, guys." The idea behind this game is that the current year is 1999, and you're an admin for this hip new thing called Hypnospace, which is an internet service you can access in your dreams by wearing a fancy headband. As such, the whole game has a very dreamlike vibe, because that's literally what it is. It's a bit of an out-there concept, especially for the time period it's meant to be set in, but if you can suspend your disbelief a little, you'll be greeted by one of the most intoxicatingly charming game worlds of the past decade. Hypnospace is supposed to be based on what the actual internet would have looked like back in the day, and based on my limited Zoomer knowledge of such things, I think they did a pretty good job. It's structured like an old internet forum. You've got a few central hubs with dedicated themes or audiences, such as teenagers or the elderly. And then within those sectors, as they're called, you'll find personal pages created by Hypnospace's user base. There's a lot of authenticity in the way this place is designed, down to the way the aforementioned teenager forum is full of pages that act basically as personal blogs, and the old people forum contains pages that are, in comparison, far more rudimentary, as if they were truly made by people who don't quite understand technology. There's pages advertising sponsored brands, musician blogs where you can listen to and download music, conspiracy theorist ramblings, and pretty much everything in between. And the best part is that the world reacts to your actions as an admin. For example, the first task you're given is one involving copyright stuff.
You know it's illegal to download copyrighted music. I'm taking you in.
This lady here is a teacher, and her students drew pictures of a cartoon character which she decided to post on her Hypnospace page. But of course, we as the player are supposed to take the Nintendo approach to copyright and kill anything that's not officially licensed. After a little time skip, later in the game you can return to that page to see that she is pissed and has rallied all the other residents of this sector to protest against you. And you know, the worst part is that I'm on her side, but as far as I'm aware, you can't progress in the game at all without taking down her images, so what gives, developers? There's a lot more of these little micro-narratives going on that you can see unfold each time there's a time skip, and it's really interesting to observe. It does a great job of replicating that feeling of digging through somewhere on the internet where things happened but you weren't a part of them. It's like watching a YouTube video about some internet drama that happened decades ago on a niche part of the web. You know, I'm still waiting for Pyrocynical to make some slop content about the drama that goes down in this place.
Yee-ass haircut.
My favorite page on Hypnospace by a mile is this one, which I think speaks for itself. This is the page of Zane, the poster child for edgy teenagers. Zane is perhaps one of the most powerful characters in fiction. I say this because, and major spoiler warning here, like, if you have any level of interest in this game, go to this timestamp for the love of God. Okay, we good? Alright, so he literally fucking dies near the end of the game. There's an event on New Year's Eve of 1999 in which several people's hypnospace headbands malfunction and they are killed in their slumber. Zane was one of these unlucky folk, and it was a major loss for humanity. Rest in peace, Zane Rocks. You would have loved Fortnite. Years after the game dropped, when the developers realized that Zane was a fan favorite, they decided to throw out a spin-off under the guise of it being an in-universe Doom clone that Zane made as an adult in the modern day. Which means he is so powerful that he retconned his own death. Goku would shrivel before this guy. Okay, well, actually, after further research, it turns out if you do some specific actions, Zane isn't killed by the mine crash incident. However, I still choose to believe that Zane is Goku-level powerful, though, because that's funny. With all of this underlying strength, you gotta wonder what Zane's life went on to be like after Y2K. I presume he went into a job like lumberjack or monster hunter or something. I mean, with all this raw power, what else would he be doing?
Yo, what's up guys? It's me, ZaneRock14, bringing you another bangin' storytime video. Today, I want to tell you about how I lost my house, and even though I made a successful hit indie game, I don't have any money anymore.
Hypnospace Outlaw is one of those games that's just oozing personality from every orifice, and I can never get enough of it. Which is why it's very fortunate for me that they're making a sequel. Someday. I'd love some more news on this. Please. I highly recommend the original to anyone that's into this old internet style, or just like detective-y puzzle games in general. It's a banger, and I know bangers. There's leagues more I could say on this game, but as per usual, I should probably save it for later. I had fun with this video though, so maybe in the future I'll come back to this topic. I had a whole list of examples I could have talked about, but for today I just chose to go over the ones I actually have experience with. If you have any recommendations, please do tell me in the comments, because I love this kind of stuff. Until then, though, I think that's all from me. As the Nintendo guy once said,
okay, that's all the time I've got. I gotta get back to playing
Fallout 3
on my
Xbox 360.